A gold airplane pulled from the jungle. A helicopter shape staring back from an Egyptian temple wall. A wooden glider said to be found near the pyramids. 3 objects, 3 continents, and one dangerous question. Viewers, if ancient people truly had aircraft, then history didn't just miss a detail. History missed an entire revolution. But here's the twist. Every one of these proofs starts collapsing the moment the timeline gets tested. Because this isn't a story about mocking mysteries, it's a story about separating what's confirmed from what simply spreads. And by the end, the truth becomes uncomfortable. What these artifacts likely are, what they are not, and why the human brain keeps seeing modern machines inside ancient art. Start with the one thing the world can place on a solid timeline. In December 1903, the Wright brothers achieved the first powered, controlled airplane flight, an event documented with photographs, notes, and a clear engineering trail that grows louder year by year. But long before the internet, people were already addicted to one idea. Maybe someone did it first, and history covered it up. Then the viral images arrived like gasoline on a spark. A tiny gold object from Colombia that looks like a jet, a carving in Egypt that looks like a helicopter, a wooden bird that looks like a glider. And viewers, here's where the trap snaps shut. Looking modern to modern eyes is not the same thing as being modern. The real mystery isn't, did they fly? The real mystery is, why do these objects fool so many people? Deep in the story, the first case begins in Colombia, where pre-Columbian gold work is real, rich, and breathtaking. Small pendants and figures were made across regions and centuries, often in tumbaga, a gold-copper alloy. Some famous collections were looted in the late 1800s and later studied as museum pieces and academic material. Then the internet rewrites the scene. A handful of pendants get renamed gold airplanes, and suddenly the claim hardens into a headline. Wings, tail, sleek body, this proves ancient aircraft. Viewers, resemblance is a trap, a strong one, because those same cultures also produced countless zoomorphic designs, stylized birds, fish, insects, and mythic hybrids, where wings can be symbolism, not mechanics. Without a label, without a text, without a maker saying this is a flying machine, the interpretation becomes guesswork dressed up as certainty. And then the plot thickens, because modern researchers don't ignore the shape, they test it. Some studies and experiments have explored aerodynamic behavior in artifacts often pulled into the Tolima-Quimbiana airplane debate, using methods like wind tunnel approaches and computational analysis. Yes, lift-like behavior can show up in tests. But viewers, lift in a lab is not evidence of an ancient aviation program. A rock can be aerodynamic if it's shaped a certain way. That doesn't mean someone invented flight.
Now the scene shifts to Egypt, because one image refuses to die. At Abydos, inside the temple of Seti I, there are relief inscriptions that, at a glance, look like something impossible. People point and say, helicopter, airplane, submarine. And the viral version of the story adds a hero, a discoverer who supposedly placed a broken chunk back and revealed modern machines hidden in stone. But when you follow the hard evidence, the miracle fades, and something far more ordinary appears. What you're looking at is best explained as a palimpsest, inscriptions carved at different times, where an older text was filled with plaster and recarved, and later erosion exposed overlapping layers. 2 messages, 1 surface, and time creates a shape your brain desperately wants to recognize. Viewers, that's not ancient technology. That's ancient renovation. And that famous discoverer name that gets repeated online? The story shows up everywhere in low credibility posts, but it doesn't land cleanly in the documented academic trail tied to Abydos epigraphy. The viral narrative doesn't carry the weight people claim it does. Now here's the twist. The helicopter isn't a blueprint. It's an accident, built by plaster, recarving, and erosion. Then comes the third object, the one that looks the most engineered to a modern mind. A small wooden bird-like artifact, often called the Saqqara Bird, associated with Saqqara and commonly placed around the Ptolemaic period in popular references. The internet turns it into a headline, an ancient glider model. But viewers, tests are where romance goes to die. Some experiments argue that without added stabilizing surfaces, it behaves poorly as a glider. And when modern stabilizers are added, the result stops representing the original object. Engineering analyses that examine stability and performance tend to hit the same wall. The jump from bird-shaped object to proof of ancient aviation cannot be confirmed with the artifact in its original form. A modified replica flying doesn't prove the ancient original flew. It proves modern hands can turn many shapes into something that glides. And once you see that pattern, the red flags become obvious because they repeat like a script.
Viewers, the first red flag is always the same. The leap from looks like to therefore it is. That tail is a rudder. But in ancient art, upright tails can be stylized fins, insect anatomy, or symbolic design, not a control surface. Those wings are ailerons. But ailerons are specific moving parts, not just wings. There's no hinge mechanism on these artifacts. It's aerodynamic, so it must be engineered for flight. But aerodynamic shapes exist in nature and in art. Aerodynamics alone is not a signature of aviation. And then comes the biggest red flag of all, the one no viral post can explain away. Where is the supporting trail? No runways, no workshops, no fuel systems, no written manuals, no mass production debris. Just a few objects that trigger modern pattern recognition and then enormous conclusions. Viewers, that's how myths survive. Tiny artifacts, giant certainty. So lay the evidence down, clean and cold. In Egypt, the context is a known historical setting, royal inscriptions, construction phases, recarving practices, and a realistic mechanism for how overlapping layers can create machine shapes without time travel. In Colombia, the pendants belong to complex artistic traditions where hybrid creatures and symbolic flight themes exist, including transformation imagery, worlds where wings can mean spirit, status, myth, or power. And in all three cases, the same silence screams the loudest. None of these objects come with original labels saying aircraft. Now here's the key, viewers. Engineering can test what a shape does in air. Archaeology must answer why the shape was made, and the why is where the aircraft story breaks. At this point, the theories line up like suspects. The first theory says ancient civilizations had real aircraft.
It sounds thrilling, but it demands a chain of evidence. Real aircraft development tends to leave behind systematic evolution. Materials consistent with airframes, large-scale tools, production traces, documentation, and multiple examples across time. That chain doesn't exist here. The second theory says they copied something they saw. Aliens, time travelers, visitors. Viewers, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Here, the evidence is mostly resemblance, not documentation. The third theory is quieter, and that's why it survives scrutiny. Symbolic art plus human pattern recognition. In Colombia, stylized zoomorphic pendants can resemble aircraft to modern eyes while representing animals, spirits, or mythic beings. In Egypt, overlapping inscriptions can generate shapes that look like machines when viewed out of context. With the Saqqara Bird, the artifact supports multiple non-flight interpretations, while flight claims weaken under stable analysis. Now, here's the twist. The mystery may not be ancient technology. The mystery may be how easily modern people reverse engineer fantasy into the past. And after the dust settles, what remains is sharper than the myth. The Abydos helicopter effect is best explained as overlapping inscriptions revealed through erosion, not a depiction of helicopters. Many Colombian gold airplanes are more plausibly understood as stylized zoomorphic or symbolic forms within a broader ritual and artistic tradition, even if some shapes incidentally behave well in aerodynamic tests. And the Saqqara Bird does not reliably support ancient glider claims when examined without modern modifications. Published analyses do not confirm ancient aerodynamic intent. What stays unclear is something different, what each maker intended in their own mind, because symbolism rarely comes with instruction manuals.
And that leads to the strongest conclusion of all. The strongest conclusion isn't they flew, it's that modern interpretation can be more powerful than ancient reality. Viewers, the questions that still matter are simple and brutal. If ancient aircraft existed, where is the production trail? Tools, parts, prototypes, failed versions? Why do ancient tech claims almost always cling to a single object instead of an entire engineering ecosystem? When tests show aerodynamic, how often is that intentional design, and how often is it incidental shape? How many mysteries are born from damage, restoration, and erosion like Abydos? Are modern eyes seeing technology or just seeing themselves reflected in ancient art? And the hardest question of all, who benefits when the past is rewritten into a fantasy? 3 famous ancient aircraft cases, all viral, all seductive, all fragile. Viewers, confirmed history doesn't fear questions, it demands better evidence. Abydos isn't a helicopter, it's layered writing, recarving, and erosion. The Colombian gold planes fit an artistic world of animals, spirits, and symbolism, sometimes with shapes that incidentally test well in air. And the Saqqara Bird's precise purpose may stay popular culture bait, but flight claims weaken under serious aerodynamic scrutiny. And that leaves one unsettling takeaway. The past doesn't need jets to be astonishing, but the internet needs a miracle, so it keeps carving one out of gold, wood, and broken stone. Viewers, the real mystery isn't ancient flight. The real mystery is how badly people want it to be true. If you want part 2, more ancient technology claims can be tested the same way. Facts first, theories second. Subscribe and comment which case you want next.